When you have a better understanding of these energies and their influences, you end up feeling so much more energized because now you're not working against the forces of nature. You have them at your back. They are supporting you to get things done. Ideally, an Ayurvedic lifestyle is going to help you live life more effortlessly. According to Ayurveda, the whole purpose of our lives is to enjoy, to be happy.
Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. And today I am joined by Kaytee Hernandez. This is going to be kind of Ayurveda 101. So you guys probably already saw in the title. Hopefully you guys are excited to learn all about Ayurveda, a little bit about Kaytee and kind of why I wanted to bring her on to talk about this. She has her degree in integrative medicine and Ayurveda. She also specializes in yoga therapy. So we are recording in a yoga studio that she works in town, which is super fun. She's a yoga therapist and teacher. She works with addiction recovery, trauma healing. She's trauma informed in everything that she does. And she teaches classes that blend movement, breath work, meditation, sound healing. I mean, it's like everything fun and enjoyable and good. And she's offers yoga therapy, Ayurveda consultations, and does retreats through her business, Kinship Yoga Retreats. So any place you want to find her, anything like that, I'll definitely have a link below. But I'm so excited to have her today.
Thank you so much for having me, Hayden. I cannot wait to talk your ears off about Ayurveda. I think my family is a little tired of it, so happy to have a new audience.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like a ripe audience. I know a little bit about Ayurveda, not a ton, and I'm super interested in, I mean, basically everything I've learned about it has also been through you, because Kaytee teaches some seasonal classes in Austin, which I absolutely love for the equinoxes and the solstices, and kind of combine yoga and Ayurveda, and we get like a little Ayurvedic tea, and it's always such an enjoyable experience. So yeah, whether you're brand new or you do know a little bit like me, or maybe you're pretty well versed in Ayurveda, I think that you're going to get something out of the conversation today. We really kind of want to talk about the foundations, like I said, 101, the pillars of health, the elements and how they interact with Ayurveda, the doshas. We have to remember, I think, that this is its own science. Like Ayurveda is a whole science. There's probably so many complexities and things that we won't even touch on today, but kind of like laying the foundation for what health and wellness looks like from this perspective, which is probably new for a lot of us, at least like in the West, because I think the way our medicine operates is very different, which maybe not, maybe not. We'll find out.
Yes and no. Yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah. So hopefully you're going to walk away with even some practices and tips to kind of start engaging with this right off the bat if you want to. So yeah, first question is, what sets Ayurveda apart from other wellness approaches?
So Ayurveda is actually thousands of years old. It's the oldest medical science in our world, and it's rooted in ancient India. Now, what's really fascinating to me is that all of our medical sciences are based in Ayurveda. So yes, what healthcare we're used to in the West may be very different now, but it does share a lot of similar principles that we can tie back to. And so Ayurveda is really complementary to other healthcare practices as well. Now, what sets it apart from a lot of Western medicine or medicine that maybe you've experienced is that Ayurveda is individualized. So it's not just about what imbalance you're experiencing or even what balance you're hoping to create. It's also about who you are, where you are, what season of life you're in, and really tailoring the practices to support your unique self. So rather than following a standardized protocol, an Ayurvedic practitioner will work with you to create a personalized plan.
Yeah. Okay. I'm really glad that you pointed out that it is kind of the foundation beneath all of the other kind of healthcare systems that have been built off of this. And something that was coming to my mind when you're talking about how personalized it is, weirdly was making me think a little bit of like astrology and the, birth chart, and how where you're located, when you were born, like the time down to the minute, like it does matter. And once you put all of those complex pieces together, it really creates such an individualized image of someone. And it sounds a little bit like,
Yes.
I don't know, it's coming to my mind.
Yes, definitely. In Ayurveda, we call your natural constitution Prakriti. Prakriti is the nature that you are born with. And lots of factors influence your Prakriti or constitution. Your parents, your birth parents' Prakriti, the environment in which you were conceived, the mood and emotions, the amount of stress your parents may have been under when they conceived you, their diet. So many things kind of influence who you become. And we use this Prakriti, this natural constitution, to tailor all of the lifestyle, nutrition, and other recommendations to you and help cultivate balance.
Okay, so I'm curious what the 3 pillars of health are in Ayurveda. And also I just want to like kind of put out there, and maybe this will be something we come back to later, but already kind of the information that you have to gather on a person to understand all this, it seems like a lot. And it seems like there's a lot of puzzle pieces you have to put together. And I'm kind of curious if there's ways that that's like accounted for in Ayurveda, and maybe some of these pillars and like the doshas we'll get to later and things like that help with it. But I'm just noticing.
You're so right. And to touch on it briefly, Ayurveda is really the art of living well. So it's not something that you do for a month and then stop doing. It's something that you incorporate into your daily life and helps support your healthcare through all the seasons of your life. Ideally, when you're working with an Ayurvedic practitioner or even an Ayurvedic doctor, you're establishing a lifelong relationship. Similar as how you would interview a therapist that you're going to work with.
Yeah.
You want to go through the same kind of checks and balances with an Ayurvedic practitioner or doctor, because hopefully this is someone who's going to get to really know you on a deep level. And it's not something that's going to happen during one session, but over a long period of time. So one of the places that we start, one of the foundational principles of Ayurveda, is that there are 3 pillars of health: sleep, nutrition, and energy management.
Okay.
And so anytime we are working with someone, we want to investigate these 3 pillars. Are you getting enough sleep? Is your sleep hygiene supportive to you? And even going deeper into your natural constitution, are you getting the quality of sleep that you personally need? New science is kind of confirming this, but for example, women need more sleep to feel energized and vital than men do.
Yeah.
And certain doshas will also need more sleep than others.
I think I have the dosha that needs more sleep.
Me too.
I'm like, yeah.
When it comes to nutrition, we also take a personalized approach. So we want to make sure that you're getting the quality of nutrition that you need to support your doshas, your mind and body constitution. We also want to make sure that you're eating holistically for your mind, body, and spirit, because food is really one of the building blocks of our lives. Food ideally is medicine, something that supports our lives and not something we're having to work against.
Yeah, the food is medicine component I think really stuck out to me when I first started learning about this, because it makes sense to put it into that context that like we're getting nutrients from food, we're getting vitamins and minerals and like all of these things that we, a lot of us now take like supplements for and stuff. And I just think it's interesting when you're talking about how personalized what we consume can be too. It kind of does go against that whole diet culture perspective, or just even when people like say, oh, the Mediterranean diet is the best diet for you, the this diet, the whatever. And I like that. I like that this is kind of talking to everyone being different, because I think we all sense that. We all feel it. You try something that your friend tried and loved, and you're like, this is not working for me, or I feel really tired, or like, it doesn't sit right with me. And sometimes it can feel like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Or like,
Definitely. There's so many fad diets out there in the health and wellness world. And I think people are searching for something that's going to provide them with the health and vitality that they desire. Ayurveda allows us to take this personalized approach. So we're working with your unique metabolism, your unique gut microbiome. We're looking at your holistic health, all of the activities in your life.
Stage of life?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And making sure that your diet is supporting that. There's this really beautiful Ayurvedic proverb. You've probably seen it if you've gone to Casa de Luz. It's written on their wall. It goes something like, when diet is correct, medicine is of no need.
This is the first thing I thought of when you were talking about food being medicine. I was like, there's some quote kind of related that's at Casa de Luz. Like I could see it in my mind.
Yeah. So ideally, we're getting all of the nutrition, vitamins, and minerals that we need from our food. And then when we need to cultivate more balance, there is a whole science of herbology within Ayurveda that we utilize to create that health.
Cool. Okay. So then there was one more pillar.
Energy management.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorites because as a yoga therapist, there are a lot of beautiful tools that I love to implement to support my clients with their energy management. But sticking with Ayurveda, it's really about what energy is available to you within your natural constitution. How do we create harmony for your mind, body, personality? And how do we make sure that your lifestyle is continuously supporting this harmony? So it's about working with the rhythms of nature rather than working against them, which I'm really sorry to inform you, most of us modern folks are working against some of these rhythms just because of the prevalence of technology and our work and so many of the other aspects of modern life.
So many aspects of modern life make it easy for us to forget even what like season it is, what is going on around us. We've got air conditioning and heating and, electric lights and like all these things where we don't really have to tune in if we don't want to.
Exactly. It's important to remember that Ayurveda was a science that originates from before we were even recording science. It's a knowledge that was passed down orally for many generations. Then between 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, it was written down and codified for the first time. And since then, it has been continuously studied and refined. But I bring that up because this was a time period before we had technology, before we had electricity, before we had running water or DoorDash.
Oh, yeah. Even when you were talking about energy management and you were like, we take the person's natural kind of like energy level or the amount that they have. It's like, oh, that's a novel idea that like everyone has different levels and there's different things that play into that, but there's also just kind of natural disposition.
And there's so many examples in nature, when you're gardening, for example, and let's say you're going to plant some broccoli. I was just planting broccoli the other day, so it's on my mind. You are going to research broccoli. You're going to learn how much sunlight does broccoli need, how much water does broccoli need, how many days to harvest, right? So there's all of these factors that you take into consideration to support broccoli. And these don't inherently carry over to growing tomatoes or cucumbers, right? We are nature. We are not separate from nature. We are made of the same elements. And so part of Ayurvedic living is getting to know ourselves, getting to learn, okay, what conditions support my well-being best? And if the conditions aren't right, how can I make small changes to help support that balance?
I love comparing myself to a broccoli plant. It's so cute. That makes so much sense. So I'm curious on kind of what the Ayurvedic elements and doshas are in really being able to understand that unique kind of prescription to you.
Yeah, let's talk about the universe according to Ayurveda.
Okay.
So the entire universe, including me and you, are made of 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. We can see these elements all around us as well as within us. Our bodily tissue is made of the food that we eat that comes from this earth, for example. We are made of a large percentage of water. We have an internal fire, an agni, a digestion that metabolizes and transforms our food into our tissue. We have little spaces all along our body, between our joints, between our organs and our tissues. And we have air that inhabits those spaces. We breathe air, right? So it's really easy to kind of start to see how these elements make up your being. Now, these elements, to better understand ourselves and our world, can be distilled into 3 doshas. Dosha is like a primordial energy. All right. The 3 doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. These doshas or primordial energies govern certain aspects of our physiology. We contain all 3, just in different kind of measures of ingredient, right? So same ingredients, but different amounts, if you will. These doshas also govern seasons, time of day, seasons of your life. So they show up in lots of different ways. Vata is the element of space and air. And so we can think of this as the energy of movement, transportation, communication. When we think of a Vata personality, this is someone who is really creative. They may have a creative movement practice. Maybe they're an artist or a musician or a dancer of some sort. They make connections really quickly. They are kind of able to come up with new creative ideas. They're very much generators.
Okay.
On the flip side, when a Vata personality can become out of balance, they can be kind of flighty. It might be the friend you have who, you know, tends to forget that you were meeting up at a certain time, or maybe they're a little late.
Yeah.
Or they show up and they've got a bunch of different bags and they forgot XYZ at home, and their mind is still caught on the last thing that they were doing. So it can have this kind of anxious energy because of all of the movement, the space and air that's inherent in this dosha.
Yeah, that flightiness. Like what I really like about the elements getting applied to the doshas is we already have such, I feel like, a inherent understanding of elements and even some of the characteristics associated. I mean, I think I spend a little bit more time thinking about things like this too, because certain suits of like the tarot deck or whatever are more associated with the elements like this. It makes me think of like the sword suit. It's very like cognitive and air and movement. And when we really take a moment to think about, you know, what these elements represent, it kind of starts to paint a picture already naturally. Like when you're saying like, oh, the friend that they kind of whisk in, like if they're late, it's almost like they're coming in on the breeze. Like they like are kind of flying in, and it just is already kind of like a rooted understanding because we all understand the elements.
And that's what I love about Ayurveda, is that it's very logical. It is easy to understand. It does make sense because it's a language for our natural world. And it's something that's been around for a really long time. People have been practicing it for a reason. It works. Now, when it comes to Pitta people, hello.
There you are.
They are made of primarily fire and water. Pitta is the energy of transformation, digestion, and assimilation. Pitta people tend to be very hardworking, confident, kind of zesty people. They have a kind of fire or passion for life. Often they can be kind of type A, very organized, methodical. They're ready to get shit done. Pitta people move quickly as well. They tend to have a fieriness to them. So when they go out of balance, they can be quick to frustration or irritability. For some people, that can show up as anger and be more outward. And for other people, it can show up as your inner critic, being really sharp with yourself. So when we think of Pitta and that fire water element, there's a sharpness to it, which can be beneficial if you are working on a project with someone. You want to get down to the root of something, but it can also be kind of challenging or triggering depending on the situation or the context, right? There's also a transformative quality to Pitta. So they are always kind of looking for the next thing, getting the next thing done, constantly evolving and changing. Again, such a beautiful quality to have in certain times of our lives. But if we're always looking for the next thing, it can be hard to develop a sense of peace.
Yeah, and rootedness. I wonder, is there any internal conflict that can arise because of that fire and water combination?
Definitely. You know, are you more referring to like the qualities of the fire and water interacting?
Yeah.
So if there is a lot of fire, it can bring about heat in our emotions as well as within the physical body. So if we're thinking about the physical body, that might lead to inflammation, right? In terms of water can show up as being heavy. And so there can be a tendency towards some depression in the mood. as well as physically, it can lead to more swelling and like water retention.
Okay. Yeah, inflammation and swelling, that's not it. Not a fun combination.
No.
Okay, what about our last one?
So kapha is made of earth and water. Kapha personalities are kind of your friend who you just want to give a big bear hug to because they just are so great at giving hugs. They have a groundedness, a stability to them that is really comforting and nurturing. Kapha personalities tend to be like the mom or the dad of the group. You know, they're the ones kind of keeping everyone together. What I love about a kapha person, I'm married to one, is that they are really rooted in themselves and can be such a stabilizing presence for others. Now, when kapha goes out of balance, they can tend to be real couch potatoes. There can be fatigue or just low energy. And it's this sense of like kind of getting stuck in place. If you think of what happens to earth when it gets wet, creates mud. And mud is sticky. Mud is hard to move through. So that's something that kapha personalities just want to kind of be aware of when they're cultivating balance in their lives.
Yeah. So if I wanted to figure out my dosha, how would I do that? Even now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. So most of us are going to contain a dominance of either one or two doshas, even though each one of us contains all three in some amount. For example, I am primarily pitta kapha. When you are working to understand your dosha, your prakriti, you want to look at your physical qualities. So a vata person, the space and air is going to show up in their physiology. They may have a thinner frame. They may have thinner features like a thin nose or small eyes or small ears. They may tend towards dryness in their skin, in their eyes, in their hair. They may have really thin hair that tends to be more blonde or light brown. So an Ayurvedic practitioner can really look at who you are, not only just right now, but throughout your life, and gain a sense of what your constitution is.
Okay.
Yeah. A pitta person is going to be more red and ruddy. You can tell I've got a lot of redness in my cheeks naturally. That's that pitta coming forth.
Interesting.
They're going to be a more medium frame, have more medium features, but there can also be a sharp quality to them. So they might have a penetrating gaze, a sharper nose, higher cheekbones. Their tendons and veins will be about medium covered. And then for a kapha person, they are going to be more of a large framed person. Their tendons and joints will be really well covered. Their hair tends to be really luscious and moist. They might have more curly, luscious hair. Their skin tends to be more glowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of nice.
There's definitely benefits and challenges to each dosha.
Right. There's the balance between all of them. Okay. So when you look at me, what do you think?
So when I look at you, I see that you have more of like an oval face. There's like a little bit of sharpness to your chin. I'd say your features are medium. Can I see your wrists and your tendons? Yeah, your wrists and your veins are medium covered. Like I can tell that they're there, but they're not protruding.
Okay.
Right? And your frame have you kind of maintained this frame throughout your life? Have you had a lot of fluctuations before?
Not really.
Yeah, so you tend to stay about the same.
Yeah.
And is it difficult to lose or gain weight, or
I stay pretty stable.
you stay stable? So that's a pitta quality.
Okay.
Yeah. What about your skin? Do you tend towards like dryness or
Oily?
oiliness? So that's some of that kapha coming through. Were you prone to, acne or anything as a teenager?
Yep. Thank God for Accutane. Which is probably not great, but yes.
Yeah, and then your hair, is this like your natural flow, more straight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's natural.
Great. And then how tall are you?
5'7".
5'7". So I'd say that's pretty medium. Yeah. So I think you have some pitta vata qualities.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of pitta in you because of those medium features. However, your hair is a little more vata quality. Your overall like demeanor is very pitta. You're very clear with your words, well-spoken, very organized. I know because you helped set this up.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear you kind of work through what you think about. And it sounds like, this is something, I guess listeners, even you could just go kind of, look at yourself in the mirror. We all probably know what we look like, but when you're really like focusing in and working through like shape of my face and like quality to my skin, and like, I think that there is something when you were talking about kind of the characteristics of like who these people are, which is like one check-in, but it sounds like another big check-in, kind of a primary way to kind of diagnose, I guess, these doshas or figure out kind of the proportion of them is by these physical features, and just even looking at someone, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, what's really neat is that when you become a little more confident with the doshas and their characteristics, their qualities, you can start to, assess the people in your life. Who are the people you kind of naturally surround yourself with? Are they balancing for you? And then I think it also helps us have a lot more compassion for ourselves as well as our loved ones. For example, my husband is very kapha. And what's great about that is he's super stable and grounded. I can come to him with pretty much anything. However, as the pitta person in our relationship, if I want to start a new project or something like that, get something done at the house, I need to bring that fire to help initiate that movement. It's just not within his nature to be the instigator for change in that manner.
Man, do I understand that.
Yeah.
I think my boyfriend is like that as well. When you were describing, he's got curly hair and just, very calming and grounding, but it'll be like Saturday and I'm like, let's do this and this and that and whatever. And he's like, we could just chill. Like, I'm like, come on. That's funny. I wonder, do you find that certain doshas kind of do gravitate towards each other, or is there always, I guess any of them can kind of combine? But
honestly, any of them can really balance one another. And I think what's really helpful is when you do learn more about yourself and your partner or partners, you can come to those interactions again with more understanding, more compassion. Like, it used to really irritate me that my husband just wouldn't be the one to instigate something. But now that I know his nature, I can have so much more compassion for that. And we can have conversations around that. I can say like, hey, I really need your support with XYZ. Can you help me stay accountable to that? And as a kapha person, accountability support, that's within his wheelhouse.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So now I'm speaking his language and he can really show up for me. Yeah.
Okay, so then are there a separate set of mental doshas? Is there another category? Okay.
Yes. So the mental doshas are rajas, sattva, and tamas. And they kind of reflect or mirror the doshas we just discussed. Rajas is primarily going to be made of fire. Rajas is the energy of movement and transformation. So it's going to help you move forward in your life, create change, evolve to new levels of being. We need all of these three mental doshas, but too much rajas can really turn into anger, irritability, frustration, even anxiety. And so anytime that I'm working with someone who says that they have a lot of anxiety or a busy mind, I want to find ways to balance
That's
that
me.
rajas. Yeah. And, it's so common, again, in our modern lives because of our technology. We're always connected. We're always kind of thinking about what comes next.
Yeah.
Our whole kind of environment, our society is very rajastic. So it's common for people to experience this. On the other side of the spectrum, we have tamas. Tamas is more this earthy energy. It's the energy of inertia. And again, we need this energy or else we would never sleep. We would never rest. We'd never, take time for stillness.
Yeah.
So it's important to have some of that. However, if there's too much tamas in our minds, we can be prone to depression and sadness. It can be really difficult to move forward in your life and to feel like you are accomplishing the intentions and the goals that you set for yourself. You might just feel kind of stuck, right? So knowing that we have these two opposites, we can utilize them to create balance. And this is what sattva is. Within the mental health field of Ayurveda, we want to promote sattva first and foremost. This is the energy of harmony and balance. When you go to a yoga practice, when you are working on breath work or meditation, our goal is to promote this sattva in our minds. It's a state of restful alertness, that feeling of peace and contentment that maybe you feel when you're you get done with a meditation or you've spent time with loved ones who are really nourishing, or you're just kind of in your flow state doing something that you love.
Oh, it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
So the mental doshas are less something that, it's not like the kind of primary doshas we were just talking about that you might have more of a tendency towards one. You're kind of have more of a preponderance of one dosha. The mental doshas are more like the energies that you're trying to balance. Like everybody is kind of trying to balance to get to that sattva level.
Yes and no. So primarily Pitta people, because of the fire that they have, they can be more prone to rajas. It's not always congruent because as individuals, we're really complex, right? But that can be a tendency. And then for Kapha people, they may have a tendency towards that tamas because of the earth quality. Vata people may also have this tendency towards rajas because of all the movement that they have in their system. But knowing that we have these three different mental energies that influence us, we can promote harmony by looking towards what cultivates sattva for us, what makes us feel connected, at peace, and whole.
Do you have some examples of what that would look like?
Yeah. So personally, I am obsessed with my morning routine. It really helps me just stay more present and mindful throughout my whole day. And it's as simple as starting with when I wake up, I have a warm mug of water with some lemon and honey. And I've got this rule that I don't look at my phone for the first hour I'm awake, so I can prioritize my yoga practice and my meditation practice. For me personally, these are the things that I know help promote harmony and balance. So by doing them first thing in the morning, I feel like I get to set myself up for success in that way.
And I have to ask, is the warm mug of water with lemon and honey, is that something particularly for you, for your makeup, that is helpful, or is that just like a general kind of Ayurvedic
It's a general tool that most everyone can try out. So the combination of warm water with lemon and honey has what we call a lekana effect. It's a Sanskrit word that means scraping. So the lemon and honey with warm water helps to scrape any leftover residue or toxins from when we were asleep and promotes that digestion and elimination. Ideally, I hope you should poop every morning, first thing.
Yep.
We talk a lot about poop in Ayurveda. Sorry.
The no, I love it. The scraping sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's
Get it
great.
out. Okay, yeah. Because there's other things like, something I was kind of curious talking about is the balancing of, what is it? It's like similars and opposites, the rule of similars and opposites, and how, balance seems like just such a core anchor in Ayurveda. And what we've been talking about so far with these different doshas and kind of learning your own makeup, it sounds like those practices will really, really vary person to person. Like, maybe this certain tea that you can make will be super helpful, and the type of yoga that you do more often is kind of tailored to your dosha. But I wonder kind of how that plays into this idea of similars and opposites, how we can kind of like utilize that principle to figure out the things that are balancing for us.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up, because these two principles are what I think one of the most beneficial takeaways. Like, if you're gonna take away something from our time together today,
okay, guys, listen,
this is it.
Listen up.
So these two principles of similars and opposites are what help us cultivate balance no matter what dosha makeup you are. So this principle of similars states, like energy increases like energy. So for example, I have a lot of pitta in my constitution, a lot of fire and water. So when I eat hot, spicy foods like chili peppers, or I go hard on some tacos and salsa, which I love, that's going to increase the fire within my system.
Okay.
I'm eating something hot. I already contain a lot of heat. So that's going to increase that quality, that energy within me. Now, to cultivate balance, we really want to look at the principle of opposites. So conversely, as a pitta person, if I were to add some cilantro onto my tacos, some cooling avocado, well, now I'm helping to balance that heat with coolness.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like if you were, feeling really cold, you wouldn't go grab a cold ice water to drink, right? You would gravitate more towards a warm cup of tea or a bowl of warm soup, right? So we are already using these principles most likely in our lives. It's just about creating some more awareness of that. And the better you know yourself, the easier it is to cultivate that balance.
So do you not tend to find that people kind of gravitate sometimes towards the things that they already are like? Because when you're talking about like having a little more fire, I'm like, I love hot food. Like I like spicy food, but I also just like warm food. Like a cold cucumber salad or something. Sometimes I'm like, this is so boring. Like I want my meal to be warm. Do you find that happens at all, that we kind of we're so prone to finding this similar things?
Here's the tea on that. Unfortunately, when we are out of balance, we are more likely to crave what is already going on within us. Like energy attracts like energy in that way. So if I am really out of balance in my pitta, I do start to notice I'm craving more of that hot, spicy food. I might be craving some of those more high intensity activities that fire me up. Even the media I consume can sometimes be more fiery, right?
Yes.
Conversely, when we are in balance, we crave what is balancing for us. So this is a really helpful thing to kind of notice within yourself. Maybe you take a moment to reflect on how you're feeling today and what it is you've been gravitating towards, and kind of assess, where am I in that spectrum of balance right now?
That is such a helpful kind of quick diagnostic on when you feel yourself getting out of balance, just looking at symbolically and literally what kinds of qualities you're seeking out. Like I like symbolically the fieriness of like the media that you're consuming. Maybe you're watching more like action-packed things or, whatever. And using that as a check-in on like, am I out of balance? Because I would say there's sometimes I probably notice maybe more of that like kapha that can be in me. There'll be times where stress is a little higher and I'm gravitating more towards like, I'm like sitting on the couch, I'm scrolling on my phone more, I'm not drinking water. I don't know why that's like where my brain goes to, but I like won't drink any water. And there's these certain things that I start to notice are indicators to me that something is going on in my life or something's kind of thrown out of balance. But that's taken a long time and a lot of awareness to like start to see the patterns in that or even pick up on some of those subtle behaviors.
Definitely.
But this question and this kind of like thing that this diagnostic that we can do, just even daily, kind of thinking, what am I craving right now? Like that's an easy thing. Most of us know at any given time what food or drink or anything that we're craving, and then kind of putting that up against what we know our dosha to be a little bit more.
Definitely. First and foremost, Ayurveda is a consciousness-based approach to health. So as we increase our awareness and up-level our consciousness, our health naturally starts to become easier, more simple, because we know how to take care of ourselves in that way. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've had this experience before as a yoga practitioner. I know for me, when I started practicing yoga, I had a lot of bad habits going on in my life. It was really difficult for me to make the positive changes that I wanted to make. But through yoga practice over a few years, as my mindset changed, as my consciousness changed, it became more effortless to choose those things that made me feel good.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Ayurveda. As we gain more awareness of ourselves, as we connect to the source of consciousness, whatever you believe that to be, whether that's nature or the cosmos or God or your inner self, it becomes more natural, more simple to choose those healthy things.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So to kind of cap it all off, I want to give you an opportunity if you feel like there's anything we really didn't cover that we have to cover for Ayurveda 101. And also to kind of ask what ways you think people can start gradually incorporating some of these practices into their day-to-day life. I know, like we touched on before, things can be so fast-paced, it can be so easy to disconnect from the world around us, much less ourselves and our body and what we're consuming and all of that. So if you have any kind of ways to gradually start to incorporate this.
One of my most favorite tools is understanding how the doshas affect our daily cycle. So every time of day and night is actually governed by a specific dosha or energy. And when you gain a better understanding of this, it becomes a lot easier to move with that natural flow of energy than always fighting against it. This really changed my life. So, to begin, in the morning time, ideally from the Ayurvedic perspective, we want to get up before the sunrise.
Okay.
And usually this is between 5 and 6 a.m. And this is because Vata governs this early time of morning. Remember, Vata is movement, transportation. We want to use this movement to get up, to start that circadian rhythm, to get digestion going. And we can use that quiet time of the morning to really focus on self-care, like yoga, meditation, breath work, maybe taking a walk at sunrise.
Ooh.
It's my favorite time of morning now. At 6 a.m., bad news, kapha comes online. And I say bad news because kapha is this earthy, grounded energy, right? The energy of nourishment, lubrication, structure. If we're getting up at kapha time, it's really hard. It's really challenging. You might feel fatigued. You might feel like you got to snooze your alarm a billion times.
Yeah.
I urge you, try it out. Try getting up at 5:30 versus 6:30.
Okay.
Notice the difference in your body. It's there. Instead, we ideally want to be awake during kapha time of morning so we can get some daily movement in. We can get some breakfast, some nourishment, and start setting up the structure for our day.
Okay.
So again, it's this idea of working with rather than against, right? Pitta time occurs at lunchtime. So when the sun is highest,
So does kapha it lasts from like 6 to like
till
lunch?
about 10.
Oh, no wonder I can't wake up. Oh.
And then from about 10 to 2, pitta comes into play. Yeah. So we want to use the fire of pitta to have our biggest meal of the day at lunch, which I know is quite different for many of us. We also want to utilize this fire to get the hardest thing done. If you've got a really difficult task, a difficult conversation, a difficult client maybe, this is a great time to schedule that. That way you can utilize that fire within you to check it off your list. Now, after pitta time of day, we start that cycle over again. So vata, kapha, and pitta also influence our evening. In the afternoons and evenings, when vata is dominant, we can utilize that creative energy to get light tasks done. Maybe you have some podcast editing to do. Maybe you're a writer and you want to get some writing done, or you're an artist. This is a great time to have meetings and connect with other people.
Is it a good time to do like workouts and movement too? No?
No.
Oh, I
Because
guess.
that vata energy, it's already so like movement based, right?
Okay. Oh.
So if then we go and move in the afternoon, evening, what tends to happen is that we get wired.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you want to capitalize off the energy that's already there and not like
Overdo it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally, we want to have our movement in the morning during that kapha time between 6 and 10 because we can balance out that earthiness and kind of create some energy for the rest of the day.
Okay. I like to work out in the morning. I got that going for me. The waking up at 5:30, not so much, but
it's little by little, right? We don't want to make intense changes overnight. What I always recommend clients to try on, move your bedtime back 10 minutes and your wake time up 10 minutes each week. And just see how that goes.
And what is the best period of time to go to sleep?
So best time to go to sleep is before 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Because from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is that kapha time of night. So this is where we want to use kapha energy to go to bed. Mm-hmm. Often you might find if you're staying up past 10, you get that second wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pitta. Because in the evening, we're utilizing pitta's metabolism, its metabolic power to digest the day. We want to be asleep so our brains can go through that cleaning process. It literally releases toxicity. Our digestion goes through its own process to clear out any waste. And we're also energetically, emotionally kind of processing what has happened that day, everything we've taken in through our senses. So it's really important that we're getting that rest.
This is so fascinating, and it's really inspiring too, because when you said, like we kind of want to be asleep before pitta comes online again, I'm like, oh my God, the second wave, like the last blast of energy before bed, like that does, I know that feeling. I've heard people talk about that too. Like all of this stuff is already so observable in our life. So it's really just being able to harness it.
Exactly. And when you have a better understanding of these energies and their influences, you end up feeling so much more energized because now you're not working against the forces of nature. You have them at your back. They are supporting you to get things done. Ideally, an Ayurvedic lifestyle is going to help you live life more effortlessly. According to Ayurveda, the whole purpose of our lives is to enjoy, to be happy. And that's really what we're working to cultivate.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I appreciate so much all the information. I'm like, my mind is churning. I'm going to go home and tell my boyfriend, we need to start waking up at 5. But yeah, this is such good information. I wonder if you have any like resources that you like to share with people on, like, if somebody's like super inspired after this, wants to go Google or start, learning more about this. Is there any place that you recommend? Obviously, I'm going to have all your stuff linked below, and you're a fantastic resource. Good follow on Instagram too, I think. So
yeah, definitely. I am happy to be a resource for y'all if you're interested in booking a consultation or having a one-on-one. I am providing Ayurvedic consultations now, which I'm so excited about. And if you're just at home wanting to incorporate a little more Ayurveda into your life, a great resource I love is Banyan Botanicals. They have a dosha quiz online that you can take to help get a better understanding of where you're at right now. And they also have a lot of great educational material.
Amazing. Well, I'll link that below as well. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If you guys have any questions, any follow-ups, please engage with me online and Kaytee as well, if that's cool with you. And yeah, maybe if this really generates some more questions and stuff, I might just have to have you back and talk more about it. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Hayden. I really appreciate you.
All right. Bye, guys.